Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, did County Executive Mark Elrich cave to political pressure to increase capacity for indoor religious services? School board elections are front and center as MCPS projects a $155 million shortfall. One of the sitting judges faces an election challenger. Is it time to change how judges are selected? And what are the implications from the vacancy created by Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passing away last week? Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by the Dean of Democratic Politics, Sam Statland, the Secretary of the Maryland Republican Central Committee, Mark Uncapher, President of the Chevy Chase Women's Republican Club, Laurie Halverson, and political strategist, Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. Did County Executive Mark Elrich agree to expand the capacity for religious services from 25% to 50% after political pressure from religious groups? Sam, last week, Jewish religious leaders were severely critical of County Executive Mark Elrich for restricting indoor service capacity at 25% during the Rosh Hashanah celebration. So did Elrich cave to political pressure?
I don't believe he caved at all from political pressure. I think he's following good health policy procedures as set up by Dr. Gales in the health department. We all want to stay safe. And what everybody is truly worried about is the combination of flu and coronavirus this fall. Stay safe, folks.
Casey, the county executive and Dr. Gales were working with a group of religious leaders, and that wasn't quite finished. But in interviews I saw on local TV stations, the rabbis that they interviewed seemed very understanding and say, you know, we have to do what's best for everybody. So I don't know if there was that much outrage.
Let's be clear about the idea of settled science driving the policy. We're all looking at the same data. There are not pre-established long-standing protocols because this is a new disease. What we're doing is making political decisions based on the data, and different politicians are making different sets of decisions.
I think it's a great point, Mark, because the state of Maryland is now in phase 3, whereas Montgomery County, which has had very stable numbers, is still in phase 2. But I want to go to Laurie on this because Governor Hogan has increased indoor dining capacity to 75% statewide, yet Mr. Elrich claims it's too dangerous to go beyond 50%, despite a stable hospitalization rate and an infection rate of 2.2%, which is below the CDC thresholds. Why is that?
Political reasons, I think. They say it's for health reasons. I watched the discussion in the county council meeting this Tuesday, and I didn't hear clear information on the real metrics that are going to be used to decide to go to phase 3. We've had an 85% reduction in hospitalizations since the April peak. So what is going on? It used to be that Montgomery County was worse than the rest of the state. Now we're doing better than the overall state average. So I don't know what's going on, except that it's political, and they want to keep businesses under control. I think there's a lot of enforcement, and they're spending a lot of time on the county council meeting talking about how they're enforcing everything. Let's talk about how we can move forward.
And I might add that Baltimore City, Montgomery County, Prince George's, and the District of Columbia are all have not moved ahead. And DC, Prince George's, and Montgomery are working together.
I mean, you can cherry pick the numbers if you want, Susan, but the fact of the matter is, bars and restaurants are going out of business. In the county executive's discussion on Tuesday, he lamented the fact that Harp and Fiddle restaurant, or bar, if you want to call it, is going out of business in Bethesda, but it's directly attributable to his policies. So let's not kid
But
each
the landlord wouldn't lower rent.
Political decisions, and he's reading the science in a way that is very restrictive. We got to wrap it up. Any last thoughts? All right, we're going to go on to our next topic. Way back in the spring, when the primary election was being held for the school board races, the hot campaign topic was who supported or who opposed a change in the school boundary lines. Then the cold reality of the new world under COVID-19 began to sink in. The devastating impact has hit the MCPS budget, where MCPS leaders anticipate a projected revenue loss from $100 million to $155 million. Susan, there's 6 candidates vying for 3 seats on the Montgomery County Board of Election, 2 incumbents and 4 challengers who are running. Who seems best equipped to meet the new challenge of operating in a COVID world?
Well, on the at-large seats, 2 newcomers, Sunil Dasgupta and Lynn Harris, are running for the at-large seat. We have an abundance of wealth in that race, and I think Sunil or Lynn both would do an amazing job. They've done really well on the few virtual forums that there are. And I think Shebra Evans from District 14 and Rebecca Smandrowski from District 2 will be reelected. They've done a good job on the board, and I don't think there's any reason to get rid of them.
I really disagree with that. I totally disagree with that. In 2001, a commission was set up to counterbalance and check actions by the school board, an audit commission to set policy. And if there's ever 2 people who fail to set policy, it's Evans and Smandrowski. I mean, they've been absolutely terrible. They sat on a commission that A, overspent the budget, 2, they use their own credit cards for public purposes, 3, something very, very simple. Right now, that committee can recommend a reduction in maintenance of effort for Montgomery County. I think that's going to happen statewide, and why these people are waiting is beyond me. We haven't seen the beginning of a financial crisis that we're going to see going into next year. These guys are absolutely terrible. I would vote for anybody.
If you're not happy with anyone who's running right now for Board of Ed, there is something you can do. You can write in a candidate. I'm writing in Stephen Austin for the candidate for the at-large race. He's the only person who has really been standing up for parents and for getting them back to school and for the 9-district effort, trying to change the system because it's currently, we're stifled as a county and as a school system. Stephen Austin is who I'm writing in.
Mark,
Stephen Austin didn't.
In the last minute, Mark, there are reports that many Montgomery County families have chosen to send their children to private schools or homeschooling. Will this trend continue post-COVID?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is a phenomenon. We're talking about Board of Elections, but parents are voting with their feet. Within Maryland, the Howard County school system is doing much better than Montgomery County, so people are going in that direction. Certainly the DC charter schools are very competitive now with Montgomery County, and we have great public and parochial schools. So there has been a dip in enrollment in Montgomery County after the long increase. This is a really important moment because when urban school systems begin to falter is when those parents with the most resources end up moving on to other alternatives.
Thank you, Mark. We're going to go on to our next topic. Maryland has an unusual system for judicial elections. The governor has the power to appoint judges to fill a vacancy on the circuit court, and then once appointed, the judge must run for election for a full judicial term or for re-election for additional terms. This year, there are 4 sitting judges who are running for re-election in Montgomery County. Now, Sam, it's rare for a challenger to successfully get through the convoluted primary process where both Republicans and Democrats vote for the same slate of candidates who are then selected to stand for election in November. And this year in the Democratic primary, 3 of the sitting judges, B.B. Berry, David Boynton, and Michael McAuliffe, were successful in getting through, but there was a challenger, Attorney Marilyn Pierre, who was also chosen to advance. While in the Republican primary, all 4 of the sitting judges, that being Barry, Boynton, McAuliffe, and sitting judge Christopher Fogelman, was selected to advance. Isn't the system for picking judges due for an overhaul? I mean, why are we having these elections at all?
Well, Casey, in 1970, Governor Mandel, through executive order, set up the current system. He set up a vetting commission, goes to each county, where members of the bar thoroughly vet each candidate from a point of decision-making, from a point of character, from a point of being able to get a sense of the community and do a good job. I like that part of it. I think that that's absolutely terrific. Every member of the Maryland Bar actually votes on who should move forward. What I don't like about the current system is I don't think any judge should stand for election. I think that should be removed. And if that was removed, we get rid of controversy, which we don't need in this instance.
But Sam,
So
then you
let's
just
modify
give the
system.
power to the good old boys in Rockville. I mean, it's a closed door club. I've been through that process, and I know that if you're not part of the Montgomery County Bar Association and going to the lunches every week, you're going to be excluded, no matter how qualified you are.
Casey, when you work within the system, you move ahead. Moving within the system has produced fine judges for us in the past and will continue to do so in the future. The current system, minus the election, should continue.
Well, let me just make a comment on the election. I met Marilyn Pierre 2 years ago when she was running in both primaries, but she was running as a law and order conservative. She was trying to win the Republican primary. She lost. This year, she ran as a progressive, and she won the Democratic primary. I'm just kind of curious as to where she really is. She certainly made a big change in the last 2 years.
Well, thank you, Mark. We got to wrap it up because when we come back from the short break, remembering the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and what can be expected in next week's presidential debate. Stay tuned. And welcome back. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away on Friday, September 18th from complications due to pancreatic cancer. Justice Ginsburg's death has had immediate implications to the presidential election. Susan, there's been an emotional outcry from the death of Justice Ginsburg because of her stature on the court. What can be expected next?
It is a great loss for American, and she was truly an amazing woman who worked, her whole career for forwarding of women. I think it's going to be a really hot battle because there are some really important issues that will be coming up. Roe versus Wade, the Affordable Care Act, DACA, and voters' rights. And if there is someone who is, extreme tacking to the right and not someone in the middle, I think that all 4 of those could go away, which would be a real loss. And in the case of Roe versus Wade, something like 76% of Americans believe in Roe versus Wade. So it will be interesting to watch the conversations, if they're going to stick to the basic rules of the Constitution as they see it, or if they interpret it. We've got a long, bumpy ride ahead of us is what we've got.
Laurie, as Susan pointed out, the political battle to appoint a successor to fill the seat of Justice Ginsburg has been joined by the 2 rival parties. What impact do you see the vacancy having on the election?
Well, we really should have 9 judges when the election process is going, when we're counting ballots, because we need to be able to break a tie so that we can have a country that is operating properly. I'm really concerned if there's a tie, what would happen to our country. I think our president President Trump has been the most transparent president in our history by giving us the list of Supreme Court justices that he will be choosing from, and then he updated the list. So he's been fantastic in helping us see. We don't know what the Democrat side will be. We don't know who Biden will bring forward if he had a choice. So I think we're doing, we really, it's the president's it's a constitutional duty to bring someone forward, and it's the Senate's job to vet those, to have hearings and confer or to not accept the nominee. So I think, for this election, it's serious that we really do need to have a Supreme Court justice selected. If not, I worry about our country's future.
I doubt that there will be a nomination. As we know, President Trump said he's going to do that on Saturday. But any doubt that we're going to have a vote and someone sworn in before the election?
I hope, President Trump makes it sound like it's going to be plenty of time to have this election before that.
Well, just looking at the history, there have been nominations that have gone through. There certainly is enough time to do it. There's plenty of precedent for doing this.
Not this short, ever. There never has been one this short, Mark.
Actually,
ever.
That's not true. The shortest has been 4 hours. James Burns was not.
Yeah, well, we've come a long time since James Burns. Give me a break.
Well, you're the one who raised the issue. It never had happened, Susan. So I had to go to the shortest.
I'm talking about the reason.
Put my 2 cents worth in. I think that the appointment is a done deal. It's going to be a Republican. It's over. And I think the end of the result is that the Democrats have raised more money for this presidential election than they ever have in the past. And I project that Biden is going to win. And those battles we can fight out later when we have a Democratic Senate and a president.
Thank you, Sam. That's great observations. As we go into our political weather vane, we can decide how to handicap the next elections. So, political weather vane time. I love it. What can be expected at the first presidential candidate debate? Mark Uncapher.
I think that both partisans on both sides will be a little bit surprised. Democrats are expecting Trump to come with horns, and Republicans are expecting that former Vice President Biden won't be able to put together a coherent sentence. Both of them are fairly practiced, and I think there probably will be some surprise on both sides that they both will be able to make a coherent presentation.
Sam.
Well, I think Trump's going to do as usual Trump, that Biden will get under his skin, that will have a negative reaction from the president. He'll make himself look worse, and Biden moves ahead towards the presidency.
Thank you, Sam. Susan.
Well, Chris Wallace has announced that there'll be 6 topics, 90 minutes, no potty breaks, and that they must stand at their podium. That's probably going to be a real challenge for Trump. But the biggest question, I think, is are they going to fact check the president? Because he has been known to just pull things out of the air and say it. And I find it ironic, Casey, that the Republicans are saying Joe Biden isn't coherent when you look at the man in the White House now, and rarely does he make sense, let alone be coherent.
Laurie, what do you think is going to happen next week? I
think Trump will be himself. I don't think we'll have any surprises there, and the Trump lovers will still love him, and the Trump haters will still hate him. But I think Biden will be on a cocktail of drugs that his medical team put together. They've probably been working on it for some time now, so that he'll be in perfect shape, as best as he can be, and he will do somewhat okay, and will appease his supporters.
Well, I think this is all great, because part of everyone's answer is what they're hoping to see. Mark probably was a little less so than everyone else. I mean, I think the bar has been set so low for Vice President Biden in terms of Republican propaganda that says that he's suffering from dementia. I think that's far an overstatement on their part. I think that's wishful thinking on their part. And whether or not President Trump exaggerates in his answers, I think most of that is going to be close to the truth. It could be true anyway. And so we're going to see whatever, and I think Laurie is right. We're going to see what we want out of this. Sam, you could be spot on that Vice President Biden might do extraordinarily well. We'll have to wait and see.
Well, Casey, I'm glad the bar is set low, because we're all going to see how well Joe Biden can do the limbo. and just show how physically fit he is to be president.
Well, you know, Sam, the reason people think the bar is low is that the vice president had a very poor debate performance during the primary. And so I think that's a cautionary tale for Democrats. So they shouldn't be too gleeful about the prospects next Tuesday. Susan?
Practice makes perfect. Bye-bye, John.
All right, when we come back from this short break, parting shots. And welcome back. Now with parting shots, Mark Uncapher.
There was sad news this week with the announcement of State Planning Secretary David Craig that he is suffering from Alzheimer's. He had a long and distinguished career as a public servant. He was a county executive in Harford County. He was mayor in Harvard Grace and was a candidate for governor in 2014 in the Republican primary. It's certainly tragic to have him. He's relatively young, 71 years old, and our hearts and prayers go out to him and his family.
Thank you, Mark. Sam Statland, your parting shot.
Well, my parting shots go to who I hope will be the losers November 3rd, Evans and Smansworski Board of Education at large race. Since these guys have been in office, all they have succeeded in doing is, number one, help divide the county, especially when it came to picking the new boundaries. What did they do? They wasted $150,000 by picking up on the Howard County study, which said that we needed redistricting. Who didn't know that? Number two, they have made absolutely no effort, as far as I'm concerned, on pre-K education. And who suffers from that? All the minorities in this county. Just those two reasons alone says vote for the challengers and get rid of these two guys.
Thank you, Sam. Susan Heltemes, your parting shot.
With the elections coming, it's important for everybody to remember that we have not gotten rid of the coronavirus. So it's important that all of you make your plan for election day. The first absentee or vote by mail ballots have been sent out this week. So when you get them, remember to sign the affidavit on the back of the envelope. That is critical. You have to sign that. And then remember to wear your mask, do your social distancing. And right now, you need to get your flu shot. That's it.
Thank you, Susan. Laurie Halverson, your parting shot.
Yes, on your ballot at the very, very bottom, be sure to vote for question D and vote against question C. Did you know that 70% of the population of Montgomery County lives north of Montrose Road, but only 2 county councilmen live north of Montrose Road? Most of the power is in the Tacoma Park, Silver Spring area. If you want that to change, vote for question D and against question C. Thanks.
Thank you, Laurie. And to pick up on what Laurie just said, next week we're going to have a very special guest, Marilyn Balcom, who is leading a group in opposition to the council ballot question D, 9 districts for Montgomery County. You're going to want to you're going to tune in for that important discussion. I want to thank the panel for being here this week. They had great discussions on everything. I want to thank the viewers for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.